My name is Eleanor Grace Whitmore, and I am 103 years old. I was born in 1923 in a small farmhouse tucked into the hills of Kentucky. Back then, electricity hadn't reached every home. Water came from a hand pump, and our family doctor traveled on horseback carrying a worn leather bag instead of modern machines. I've lived through the Great Depression, World War II, the first television, the moon landing, and now a world where people speak to loved ones across the globe through a phone that fits in a pocket. I've buried 2 husbands, countless friends, and more neighbors than I can remember. I've also outlived every doctor who cared for me during the first half of my life. One of them, Dr. Robert Simmons, warned me when I was 64. He looked over my blood tests and said gently, "Eleanor, your kidneys are beginning to show signs of age. Nothing serious yet, but take care of them. Slow down. Be careful." I thanked him and continued living. Years later, Dr. Simmons died after complications related to kidney disease. Today, I am 103. I don't tell you this to impress you. I've made plenty of mistakes. I've eaten too much pie. I've ignored aches that deserved attention. I've spent sleepless nights worrying about people I loved. But after more than a century of watching friends grow old, become sick, and leave this world far too soon, I noticed something remarkable. Most of them weren't defeated by rare diseases. They were defeated by ordinary habits. Small choices repeated every single day until those choices quietly became illness. The saddest part? Most never realized they were harming one of the hardest working organs in the body, the kidneys. Your kidneys rarely complain. They simply continue working. Until one day, they can't. That is why I want to share 7 lessons life taught me. 4 are physical habits. 3 are invisible burdens that live inside the heart. If you're over 50 or you love someone who is, I hope you'll stay with me, because this conversation may help you protect not only your kidneys, but the years you still have ahead. Your quietest organ. Your knees hurt, your back aches, your head pounds, your stomach growls, but your kidneys remain silent. Every single day they filter your blood, remove waste, balance fluids, help control blood pressure, support healthy bones, and keep your entire body in balance. They ask for almost nothing, which is exactly why people forget about them. The problem is that kidney disease often develops quietly for many years before symptoms appear. By the time swelling, fatigue, or changes in urination become obvious, much of the damage may already have been done. That silence makes prevention incredibly important. And the first threat I want to talk about surprises almost everyone. Poison number 4, sitting too much. If I had to choose one habit that slowly steals health from older adults, it would be this: stopping movement. Not because the body cannot move, because comfort slowly replaces activity. My dear friend, Margaret Ellis, retired after 40 years of teaching elementary school. She deserved a rest, and she certainly took one. Her mornings became television. Her afternoons were crossword puzzles. Evenings were spent in her favorite recliner. She wasn't lazy. She simply believed retirement meant finally sitting down. Within a few years, she developed high blood pressure, then pre-diabetes. Eventually, her doctor told her that her kidney function had dropped significantly. She was shocked. "But I eat healthy," she said. Her doctor replied, "Diet matters, but movement matters just as much." That sentence stayed with me, because healthy kidneys depend on healthy blood flow. Every time you stand up, your muscles help push blood back through your body. Every walk improves circulation. Every step helps deliver oxygen and nutrients to organs that never stop working. But sitting for hours slows that circulation. Over time, it becomes easier for blood sugar to rise, blood pressure to increase, and inflammation to build. Little by little, the kidneys begin working under more stress. You don't need to run marathons. At 103, I certainly don't, but I do move every single day. Every hour I stand up, I walk to the kitchen. I water my flowers. I stroll to the mailbox. When the weather is bad, I walk laps around my hallway. My great-grandson laughs and calls it my indoor marathon. I laugh with him, because every step reminds my body that it's still alive. One of the greatest mistakes we make is believing exercise has to be difficult before it becomes valuable. It doesn't. 5 minutes is better than none. A walk after dinner is better than another hour in the recliner. Standing while talking on the phone is better than sitting. The body was designed to move, and your kidneys notice every time you do. That brings me to the second lesson, one that took me much longer to learn, because, like millions of people, I trusted something simply because everyone else trusted it. A little pill that promised fast pain relief, without realizing the quiet price our kidneys might eventually pay. The next lesson was much harder for me to accept, not because it was complicated, because it challenged something I had trusted my entire life. Like many people my age, I believed that if a medicine could be bought without a prescription, it must be safe. Why else would it sit on the shelves of every grocery store and pharmacy? Why would millions of people use it? Why would doctors recommend it? Those questions made perfect sense. But life has taught me that something can be helpful and still become harmful when used the wrong way. I'm talking about common pain relievers like ibuprofen, naproxen, and similar anti-inflammatory medicines. These medications have helped countless people recover from injuries, reduce inflammation, and manage short-term pain. The problem isn't taking one pill after pulling a muscle or twisting an ankle. The problem begins when, once in a while, quietly becomes every morning. That happens more often than most people realize. Helen's story. One of my closest neighbors was Helen Carter. She loved her garden more than almost anything. Even in her 70s, she spent hours planting flowers, trimming roses, and pulling weeds. Eventually, years of hard work caught up with her. Her knees began to ache, then her shoulders. Soon, even opening a jar became painful. Her doctors suggested taking ibuprofen whenever the pain became too much. At first, she took it only on difficult days, then every weekend. Before long, it became part of her morning routine. She wasn't abusing the medicine. She wasn't taking large doses. She simply believed she was following good medical advice. The pills helped her sleep. They helped her keep gardening. They made life easier. What none of us realized was that while the medicine was easing her pain, it was also asking more and more of her kidneys. Why? It matters. Think of your kidneys as 2 tiny water treatment plants working 24 hours a day. Every minute they filter your blood, remove waste, balance minerals, and keep your body functioning properly. To do that, they depend on a healthy supply of blood. Some pain medicines reduce the production of natural chemicals that help maintain blood flow through the kidneys. For most healthy people taking an occasional dose, this usually isn't a serious problem. But for older adults or anyone living with diabetes, high blood pressure, dehydration, or existing kidney disease, using these medicines every day for months or years may gradually increase the risk of kidney damage. The kidneys don't suddenly stop working. They simply become a little less efficient, then a little less, and a little less again, year after year, without causing obvious pain. That is why kidney disease is often called a silent illness. The warning came too late. When Helen was 76, she noticed she felt tired almost all the time. Her ankles became swollen. She blamed old age. Many people do. But blood tests revealed that her kidney function had fallen dramatically. She looked at me one afternoon and quietly said, "I thought I was taking care of myself." She had never smoked. She rarely drank alcohol. She stayed active. She ate reasonably well. Yet one habit she believed was harmless had slowly become another burden her kidneys carried every single day. Watching Helen changed the way I think about pain forever. Pain is a message. Getting older has taught me something simple. Pain is unpleasant, but pain is also information. It tells us something needs attention. Sometimes medicine is exactly the right answer. Sometimes it's necessary, but medicine should never become the only answer. Pain may also be asking for stronger muscles, better posture, weight loss, physical therapy, gentle stretching, more movement, or treatment for an underlying problem that has never been properly addressed. Ignoring the cause while only treating the symptom is like covering the warning light on your car's dashboard with tape. The light disappears, the problem doesn't. Use medicine wisely. If you take anti-inflammatory pain medicine every day, I'm not asking you to stop because an old woman says so. Please don't. Instead, talk with your healthcare provider. Ask whether daily use is still necessary. Ask whether your kidneys should be monitored. Ask if there are safer options for long-term pain management. For many people, simple changes such as regular exercise, physical therapy, heat, cold therapy, or other medications may help reduce the need for daily painkillers. The goal isn't to fear medicine. The goal is to use it wisely. That is a lesson I wish Helen had learned years earlier. She passed away peacefully at 82. Kidney disease wasn't the only reason she died, but it changed the final years of her life, and it taught me something I have never forgotten. Never assume that something is harmless simply because it is familiar. The greatest dangers are often the ones we stop questioning, which brings me to another threat, one hiding in almost every kitchen, not in the medicine cabinet, not in the salt shaker, but inside foods that millions of people eat every single day without giving them a second thought. Hidden sodium. And after watching more than a century of life unfold, I believe it has quietly damaged more kidneys than most people could ever imagine. As I grew older, I noticed something interesting. Most people worried about the salt they sprinkled onto their food. Very few worried about the salt that was already hiding inside it. When I was a little girl, almost every meal was cooked from scratch. My mother baked bread every week. Soup simmered for hours on the stove. Vegetables came from the garden. Chicken came from the backyard. Nothing came with a nutrition label. Nothing stayed on a shelf for months. We didn't eat perfectly, but we ate real food. Looking back, I believe those simple meals protected our kidneys more than we ever realized. Today, things are different. Many meals come from a box, a can, or a freezer. They're convenient, they're quick, but they're also loaded with sodium, and your kidneys pay the price. My neighbor Thomas Reynolds lost his wife after 50 years of marriage. She had always cooked for the family. After she passed away, Thomas stopped cooking. Not because he couldn't, because eating alone no longer felt worth the effort. So he bought canned soup, frozen dinners, packaged noodles, deli sandwiches, microwave meals. One afternoon he smiled and told me, "At least I don't add extra salt anymore." He truly believed he was eating wisely. The problem wasn't the salt shaker, the problem was the food itself. Within a few years, Thomas developed severe high blood pressure. Despite medication, his blood pressure remained difficult to control. His doctor finally explained that nearly every meal he ate contained far more sodium than his body needed. His kidneys had been working overtime for years. Why hidden sodium matters. Your kidneys constantly regulate the balance of water and minerals in your body. When you regularly eat too much sodium, your body tends to hold on to extra fluid. That extra fluid raises blood pressure, and high blood pressure is one of the leading causes of kidney damage around the world. Imagine spraying delicate flowers with a fire hose every single day. Sooner or later, something gives way. The tiny filters inside your kidneys are no different. Thomas eventually needed dialysis. Watching the strongest man on our street struggle to walk across his yard broke my heart. Since then, I have always read food labels carefully. I choose foods with less sodium whenever I can. I cook more often than I buy prepared meals. When I use canned vegetables, I rinse them well. Instead of adding extra salt, I flavor my food with garlic, onions, herbs, lemon, and black pepper. Small changes, repeated every day. Those are the habits that protect your kidneys over a lifetime. Poison number 1, sugar and refined white flour. Now we come to the poison that worries me most. Not because it works quickly, because it works so slowly that most people never notice the damage until it's already done. I'm talking about sugar and refined white flour. They've become part of nearly every celebration. Birthdays, weddings, holidays, family gatherings, soft drinks, cookies, cakes, candy, sweet cereals, white bread, pastries. Even foods that don't taste very sweet often contain surprising amounts of added sugar. Little by little, it becomes part of everyday life. David's story. My son-in-law David was one of the kindest men I've ever known. He worked hard, loved his family, never complained, but he had one habit that followed him from his teenage years into retirement. Every day he drank 2 cans of soda, one with lunch, one with dinner. He never imagined those drinks could one day change his life. By 60, he had developed type 2 diabetes. A few years later came kidney disease. Soon, dialysis became part of his weekly routine. One afternoon, he quietly said to me, "If someone had warned me when I was younger, I would have listened." Those words have stayed with me ever since. The slow damage. When we eat large amounts of sugar or refined carbohydrates, our blood sugar rises quickly. The body releases insulin to bring it back down. When this cycle repeats day after day for many years, the body gradually becomes less responsive to insulin. Blood sugar remains high. Those extra sugar molecules begin damaging tiny blood vessels throughout the body, including the delicate filters inside the kidneys. Over time, those filters become scarred, less efficient, less able to clean the blood. Diabetes is now one of the leading causes of kidney failure worldwide, and sugar often brings other problems with it: weight gain, high blood pressure, fatty liver disease, chronic inflammation. Together, they place enormous stress on the kidneys. The choices I make, people sometimes ask if I never eat dessert. Of course I do. Life should still have celebrations. But celebrations shouldn't become everyday habits. Most days, I drink water, sometimes sparkling water with lemon. Unsweetened tea. I eat oatmeal instead of sugary cereal, whole fruit instead of fruit juice, whole grain bread instead of white bread, beans, vegetables, fish, eggs, simple foods my mother would recognize. Last year, my doctor smiled and told me, "Your kidneys are working remarkably well for someone your age." I smiled too, because healthy kidneys aren't protected by one miracle food. They're protected by thousands of ordinary decisions made over many years. Move your body. Be careful with pain medicine. Watch your sodium. Limit sugar. Simple advice. But after living for 103 years, I've learned something even more important. The greatest threats to our health don't always come from what we eat. Sometimes they come from what we carry inside. The heart, the mind, the emotions we refuse to let go. And those invisible burdens may be the most powerful poisons of all. Now we've reached the last part of my story. We've talked about 4 physical poisons that quietly damage the kidneys. Too much sitting, overusing painkillers, hidden sodium, too much sugar and refined flour. Every one of them matters. But after living for 103 years, I've come to believe that some of the greatest threats to our health aren't found in the kitchen at all. They live inside us. You can't see them. You can't touch them. Yet they affect the body every single day. Over the years, I watched people who ate healthy meals and exercised faithfully become seriously ill. At first, I couldn't understand why. Then I began noticing something they had in common. Many of them carried emotional burdens they never released. Those burdens slowly became part of their lives, and perhaps part of their illnesses too. Invisible poison number 1. Holding on to anger. Everyone gets angry. That isn't the problem. The problem is refusing to let the anger leave. Some people replay the same argument for years. They remember every insult, every betrayal, every disappointment. They carry those memories like heavy stones in a backpack. I had a cousin named Richard. He spent nearly 20 years angry with his brother after a family business disagreement. No holiday passed without him mentioning it. No family gathering ended without bitterness. The anger slowly became part of who he was. His blood pressure climbed. He slept poorly. He worried constantly. Eventually, heart disease and kidney problems followed. Would forgiveness have changed everything? No one can say for certain, but I know this: living in constant anger never made anyone healthier. Today we know that long-term stress can raise blood pressure, disturb sleep, and increase inflammation. I didn't know the science when I was young. I only knew what I kept seeing. People who found peace often seemed to live with more strength than those who never did. Invisible poison, number 2. Grief that never heals. The second invisible poison is grief that is never allowed to heal. There is nothing wrong with sadness. When we lose someone we love, grief is natural. It reminds us that love mattered. I've buried 2 husbands, my parents, dear friends, even family members who should have outlived me. I've cried every single time, and I don't regret one tear. Crying is not weakness. Sometimes it's the beginning of healing. My friend Ruth believed she had to stay strong after losing her daughter. She never talked about her. She packed away every photograph. She buried her pain deep inside. But buried grief doesn't disappear. It often finds another place to live. She stopped sleeping well. She lost her appetite. She no longer enjoyed the hobbies she once loved. Her health slowly declined. I can't say grief caused her illness. Life is rarely that simple. But I do believe carrying unbearable sorrow made every challenge harder. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means allowing yourself to feel the pain, and then slowly allowing yourself to live again. Invisible poison, number 3. Constant comparison. The last invisible poison has become much more common than when I was young: comparison. Today, people compare themselves every time they look at a screen. Someone always seems richer, healthier, younger, more successful. It's easy to believe everyone else has a better life, but comparison quietly steals gratitude. And gratitude is one of the healthiest habits I've ever known. I once knew a woman named Janice. She was always talking about what everyone else had: a bigger house, better vacations, smarter grandchildren. Nothing in her own life ever felt like enough. She spent so much time looking at other people's blessings that she stopped appreciating her own. Living that way creates constant stress. And the body responds to emotional stress much the same way it responds to physical danger. Heart rate rises, blood pressure increases, stress hormones remain elevated. The body never truly rests. After 100 years of watching people, I've become convinced that peace is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. The greatest medicine people often ask me, "Eleanor, what's your secret?" They're usually expecting me to name a vitamin, a special tea, some miracle supplement. I always disappoint them, because my greatest medicine never came from a bottle. It came from simple habits: walking every day, eating real food, drinking plenty of water, getting enough rest, forgiving people more quickly, letting myself cry when I needed to, laughing whenever I had the chance, being grateful for ordinary mornings. I'm not perfect. I never have been. But I've tried to practice those habits for many years, and I believe consistency matters far more than perfection. Final thoughts. So here we are, a woman who has lived 103 years, sharing the lessons life has taught her. If you remember nothing else, remember these 7 poisons, the 4 physical poisons. Sitting too much. Using anti-inflammatory painkillers every day without medical guidance. Hidden sodium in processed foods. Too much sugar and refined white flour. and the three invisible poisons: unforgiven anger, grief that is never allowed to heal, constant comparison. You don't need to change your life overnight. Start with one small step. Take a short walk after dinner. Drink water instead of another sugary drink. Read the nutrition label before buying packaged food. Cook one homemade meal this week. Call someone you've been meaning to forgive. Tell someone you love them while you still can. Remember, great health is rarely built by one extraordinary decision. It is built by hundreds of ordinary choices made every single day. Those choices become habits. Those habits become years, and those years become your life. My name is Eleanor Grace Whitmore. I am 103 years old. My doctor tells me my kidneys are still serving me remarkably well. I thank God for that every single morning. But I also thank the countless small choices that helped me get here. If today's conversation touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone you love: a parent, a spouse, a friend, a neighbor. One simple conversation might encourage someone to make one healthier choice, and sometimes, one healthier choice repeated every day can change the course of an entire life. Take care of your kidneys. Take care of your body. Take care of your mind. Take care of your heart, because those three have always worked together. And after 103 years, I truly believe that's the closest thing to a real secret for living a long, healthy, and meaningful life.